Awareness, the final frontier. This is Awareness Explorers.
Welcome back, fellow explorers, to Awareness Explorers. I'm your co-host, Jonathan Robinson, and I'm with my friend, co-host.
Brian Tom O'Connor.
Took you there a second, no, Brian. Well, today, as is often the case, we have a person to interview, and as often the case, Brian knows a lot about him, and I know nothing, so we can cover both ends of an interview. But I do want to give a bio of Samuel Jacob. Samuel is a contemporary spiritual teacher and mentor specializing in radical self-inquiry. I'll have to ask you about the radical part of that. But also direct guided meditation and the tantric yoga of sensation and perception. In 2016, Samuel came in touch with Rupert Spira and Muji, and the transmission of these pivotal meetings was like traversing the event horizon of a spiritual black hole, into which the edifice of false identity falls and meets its dissolution. Obviously, Samuel is very poetic in that description. During the summer of 2018, Samuel found resonance in the company of Francis Lucille and John Burney, both direct disciples of John Klein. And furthermore, John Burney inspired Samuel's meditation into the system of traditional Qigong, which he is still a student and practitioner of. And Samuel lives in Bristol, UK, and offers one-on-one meetings and holds gatherings and longer immersions both online and in person. Well, welcome, Samuel, to Awareness Explorers.
So beautiful to be with you both.
Well, thank you. And for those who are listening to the podcast rather than watching us on YouTube, Samuel looks a little bit like Jesus. So has anybody ever said that to you?
Oh yeah, all the time, yeah.
Great. Um, I said in your bio, Samuel, that you do radical self-inquiry and also tantric yoga. I have questions about both of those, but maybe before we go into that, tell us a little bit about how you came into your non-duality experience in teaching.
Initially, for me, there was always an interest I feel is present in all of us to discover what this is. There is being, and why is there being? How is there being? And from an early age, I was questioning that. And through various phases of not fulfilling a sense of happiness, a sense of completeness that I imagined life should offer, because there's an intuition deep in us that life should offer happiness, completeness, because in fact we are happiness and completeness. So through psychological suffering, which was this disappointment that life hasn't produced happiness, I began to question what is happiness, how to find happiness. And along with that came, well, what is being? There must be something more than my personal view of things. There must be an experience that transcends the personal. So I began trying meditation, psychedelics, looking into YouTube for consciousness related content. And through contemplating, just in my own experience, through the tutelage of teachers and their lines of reason, discovering simply through a phase of glimpses into our nature that seem almost insignificant in the moment that they happen, but they are so profound in shattering the belief that we are personal, separate entities, that we are dependent on things for happiness. Those glimpses continued until the glimpse is recognized to be timeless, that it is our ever-present nature to simply be aware and not have any evidence intrinsic to this awareness that we are limited or separate, that in fact the totality of being is one infinite whole. And being infinite, its nature is completeness and happiness.
Mhm.
Hmm.
I'm wondering how old you are because you've done a lot of searching, been with a lot of teachers, and yet you look quite young.
32.
So almost the age of Jesus when he, hopefully you have more years.
Yeah.
Uh, Go on,
You know,
Brian.
one thing I've noticed in your videos is that they exude joy and sometimes even laughter, even when you're treating the subject seriously. It's not like you're making light of it, but I've noticed this in myself that this is elicits a kind of an inner chuckle and inner laughter and inner joy. And I keep seeing this. It's one of the reasons why I wanted you on the podcast.
Mm. Yeah, it's so true that this experience of being infinite, being complete, is a non-feeling tone experience. It's not a sensation as a revelation. It's an experience of being infinite. So it's not limited to any form of sensation or feeling. And somehow when that, which is the very fabric and substance of everything, then touches our apparently limited form, the human body, it touches within all of these nooks and crannies, all of these flows, these tensions which are inevitable in a human form, and they express themselves through that as a channel. And it feels like laughter is that way that the infinite just relishes, even in the fact that there is limitation, because it is a celebration that there is limitation, that we get to experience ourselves in this way.
Well, that's a beautiful way of putting it and connecting both the inner experience of pure universal awareness and the human experience, because many traditional non-dual teachers might sort of give short shrift to the human experience, but it's somehow that universe, the nature of the unconditional love of the universal seems to flow back into the individual. Is that your
Mm.
experience?
Yes, yes. This love, this peace, this happiness that are all synonymous in one direct experience just naturally express themselves. They are expressing themselves all the time. It's just we are veiling that with our belief that somehow love, peace, and happiness can be found in the future or in particular circumstances. So it's just an unveiling of this already present energy, which is already the fabric of our body. Our body of sensations is already seamlessly harmonious. If we look in the very fabric of it, it's just one homogeneous whole. And we usually think that there's an edge to the body. So we think that this one homogeneous whole of the body is separate from the landscape, from the universe, from other people. So there seems to be a conflict and a friction. And so we don't seem to feel the harmony that is already intrinsic to the entire universe, everything flowing into everything. And so, as we recognize that the very substance of everything is one, we simultaneously recognize everything is seamlessly connected and is loving on itself, loving everything through every interaction. That is what, to me, interaction is. Interaction is just a sharing of our being.
Mhm.
You use the word already several times in the conversation, and as listeners to our podcast know, this is one of my favorite words because it's already here. I mean, the idea that it's somewhere out there that we need to get that's not here seems to me the veil. But when you look inside, as a matter of fact, you had one of the best explanations of non-dual meditation or direct path in your video. Let's see, it was called The Most Direct Non-Dual Meditation, No Steps, No Distance. And you said, what we really seek through any practice, we seek ultimate rest, stability, peace, unconditional contentment, completeness. So why not go straight to completeness, peace, stability, rest, which is already available now?
Mm. Yes. There's no need to fabricate a journey. We've been told by many teachers of various religions that there is a journey to God, that there is a journey of practice that we must implement in order to arrive at God, to arrive at ultimate reality or happiness. But as we know, those of us who've recognized in our experience that happiness, God, reality is already here, we can just say simply from the authority of our experience, hey, you don't need to practice an effort to go towards where you already are. You already are there. So just look for that in your experience, which is already here. And if we look to what is always already here, we find that it is not a thought. A thought appears and disappears. All the sensations of the body appear and disappear. All the perceptions that constitute the entire apparently physical cosmos appear and disappear. The only presence that remains as the very ground of already here-ness, of being ever present, is awareness, is what we call I. So once we've removed in our investigation thoughts, sensations, and perceptions from being the ultimate stability of ourself, all we have left is this pure experience of awareness. And that is unconditional. It's not dependent on any condition, for all of the conditions of thought, sensation, and perception come and go. The only unconditional presence that is available is awareness. And in fact, unconditionality is precisely what happiness is. It is ever presently here, unperturbed in its presence in the face of everything that appears. When anything appears, it does not perturb the presence of awareness. And that is precisely what peace and happiness is. And unconditional love is the experience that this awareness is seamlessly one with everything that appears. When a thought arises, there is no separation between awareness and what it is aware of, the thought. We cannot remove a thought from awareness. Where would we put it? There is nowhere outside of awareness to put a thought. It is seamlessly one with awareness. And likewise with every sensation and perception, we cannot peel them away from awareness and place them outside of awareness. If we look, the only substance there is awareness itself, this unconditionally present reality.
You speak very poetically, Samuel, and I'd like to get into some nitty-gritty stuff, such as like most people are pretty caught up in problems, plans, relationships, things like that. And I assume you have experienced that in your early days. What would you say was key to uh, recognizing this ultimate reality and moving through all those obstacles that most people have.
To use the tantric yoga of sensation and perception and include thought in that, which would be in any moment to make the joyful, fully interested effort. And so it's not really an effort. We don't experience it as arduous when we're enthused to practice this. We feel this joy welling up, enjoyment to explore that all of the thoughts, the sensations, the perceptions, the problematic situations that our mind conceptualizes as problematic, the planning, the relationship dynamics, to feel in every moment using our imagination and our creativity that all of this is made of ourself. However we do that is utterly unique to us, but there are various practices we can use. Like we can use the metaphors, which may seem poetic when we use them initially, but when they connect with the very actuality of our experience, we see that they are perfectly practical in the sense that if we use the analogy of an ocean and we feel this oceanic presence of awareness, and we feel that every thought that arises in this moment, perhaps there's some problematic situation arising, and there's a thought stream. We feel that this stream of thought is a current within this ocean, and this current is mixing with the perception of the landscape. Maybe our lover or our partner is screaming at us. There's something awry in the relationship. We can feel in that moment that their very yelling is made of the ocean of awareness. And because it is already made of awareness, just by this imagining and being open to the possibility that the very substance of the interaction is awareness, then it connects and we understand and we feel. And from this place of feeling the unity, even through the difficulty on the surface, the friction on the surface, we then establish the love, the peace, and the happiness, which transcend feeling, transcend action, but then they can become filtered through action and feeling. And we begin to feel this open-heartedness with the situation.
Hmm. That's a great explanation. I studied more like Eastern sexual tantra and its idea of that all the energy is made of, the ocean. It's a little easier with the pleasantness of sexual energy than your mate screaming at you. But I see that the theory would be the same. Was it a somewhat gradual process of incorporating or seeing more and more of the moments of reality as being part of the ocean of existence, or did it kind of tip all at once?
Gradual.
Uh,
There's a natural tipping. So each glimpse is a tipping where there's a dropping of the veil and an establishment of what is always true, just this feeling that there's one oceanic presence. And
mhm,
then the reappearance of an old tendency to believe that there is a veil, to believe there is a separation. And progressively through practicing this way of feeling and perceiving that everything is one, because that is already the case, because that's already reality, it's so much more powerful than the tendency to believe that there's separation. So just by practicing that, gradually it becomes more and more evident what is always evident.
mhm, mhm,
This conversation reminds me of a concept that I often think about because I find the concept of problems very interesting. And it seems to me, in fact, that almost without exception, every thought that runs through our minds involves a problem to be solved, no matter how small. And in your video, dealing with problems while resting as awareness, you answered the question, is to rest as awareness enough? With a simple answer, yes. But when I talk to people, I find that underlying almost every question is the desire to figure out how to solve a particular problem that the individual is happening, is that the individual is having. Do you find that as well?
It can begin that way, even with the interest to discover the true nature of reality, which there may be an intuition already from hearing someone speak from it, that it is one, that there is a person who has a problem, and that is, I cannot see this clearly. I cannot see this truth clearly. But already in the asking of the question, there is the alleviation of the problem of taking oneself to be a person. For in that moment, there is the openness, which is saying, I'm doubtful that there is a person here that I am that is separate, and I'm open to the possibility that I have no problems ultimately, and I'm not a personal entity fundamentally. So that openness is already a dropping of a belief, a doubting of a belief, which is the openness to the truth, which is already here. So it's the truth that's open to itself when it asks a genuine question. And like you mentioned, there are practical problems, and we could use the word problem in the way that a mathematician would use the word problem. When they have a problem in front of them on a piece of paper, it's some algebra formulation. They don't see it as a negative issue. They see the problem as some fascinating exercise in discovering the answer. So the conversion from negative problems to positive problems simply comes from discovering that which is beyond any negativity.
Mm.
And that is ultimately discovered by everyone who's on this path who finds a teaching, because maybe they've come in contact with deep negative psychological suffering and they're open to the possibility that they will discover happiness. So if they're already open to discover happiness, it's already the happiness that is intrinsic within us as our infinite being, which is shining and making itself known progressively. So all of those negative problems, the way of framing them as negative is on its way out.
Mm. It's
And
a
then we're like a
beautiful.
crazy scientist or mathematician solving problems.
Yeah, that's a beautiful and generous explanation. It's sort of like we go from the idea that there's something wrong with right now to a kind of intense curiosity about what it is that knows this, and then the next progression is realizing that we don't have to change anything. That what knows this is pretty okay, not pretty okay, totally unconditionally okay.
I like how you talk about without the filter of it being negative, more like an equation. Um, you also mentioned in your bio about radical self-inquiry, and people have such different ideas of what self-inquiry is. I'm wondering how you view it or what it entails for you.
Mm.
So the classic self-inquiry question that most people are familiar with was offered by Ramana Maharshi, which is, who am I really, or what am I really? And I feel this is the most radical if we look at what it really means, because it is to say, what am I? And to look just what am I without adding anything to that pure experience. Usually in spiritual cultures and teachings, there is an attempt to conceptualize and formulate the understanding of reality as infinite, unlimited, or to come to some conclusion about what I am, and to hold that as perhaps a belief or as a framework. And whilst we're maintaining that framework in our mind, then we feel we are established in our true nature. Whereas what's being invited with radical self-inquiry is simply to not know anything about ourselves. Because in truth, if we look at the raw, naked experience of simply being aware, we do not find any conceptual knowledge in that intrinsically. We don't find any limits in that, not even the conceptualized unlimited label or infinite label. Reality is so infinite, so unlimited, that it doesn't even know itself as infinite or unlimited. The word infinite or unlimited is a thorn to remove a thorn. So when we just ask ourselves, what is the nature of myself before I am qualified by any thought or sensation or perception, what do I know myself as? And as we rest as this silence, which just is, that is to be as fully and completely ourself as we are, and is in fact all that's required to be established as peace, happiness, and love unconditionally. We don't need to have any belief system or framework of the mind to be satisfied. Just resting
Hmm.
as we are.
Yeah, that puts me in mind of something you said in one of your videos. This is the real meditation, resting as stillness within movement. And you said, I'm not suggesting to a separate entity to make an effort to rest in awareness, because that separate entity is composed of thought, which by nature is movement. So that movement will never find rest, will never stop. The moment that it stops, it ceases to exist. I never really heard it said quite that way, that the separate entity is composed of thought, which by nature is a movement. I find that really fascinating.
Mm. Yes, yes. Reality being one
Mhm.
is eternal. There is only one reality. There are not two realities. And by reality, I mean that which is. There is not an is not or a non-being anywhere to be found. So this one reality is eternal, timeless. So to find the timeless, we do not need to use time. In fact, we can't use time to find the timeless, because if we use time, we will locate ourself apparently within time and move through time to try to arrive at the very substance of time, that which underlies time, which is already here, as timelessness. The mind is time, the body is time, the perception of the cosmos is time. So we cannot use any of these tools to find the timeless. Only the timeless finds itself, but it doesn't find itself because it never lost itself. It simply is itself and knows itself as being timelessly here, always here.
Uh, as I was following that, I found it hard for me to formulate a sentence because it was kind of like a guided meditation there, which was nice. But I do have a question about you spent time with some famous teachers, John Burney, Francis Lucio Muji. I'm wondering what they did for you or what was helpful in your association with them.
First of all, just the authority of speaking from direct experience, because we hear that in the resonance,
Hmm.
and to come in contact with that and to recognize they're speaking from the truth. what they're saying is possible for me to experience. And more than that, the lines of reason and investigation that were used, more of an inquiry that involves looking at all of the aspects of my experience. Because in the early days, the mind is very active. So there seem to be many distractions from recognizing this truth because there's many be moments of believing we are separate entities. So there was a channeling of the energies of the mind, using the enthusiasm to discover the truth and using the lines of reason that were given to then contemplate how is everything one? How am I not experiencing this now? Or am I experiencing this now? I'm just overlooking it. How can I see this?
Did you find any of their specific techniques useful, or was it more like just diving into the pool of their presence?
I would say both the diving into the pool of the presence and also it's like we were both there in a jacuzzi being warmed by the water of our presence
Hmm.
and we're having a conversation on the surface. The conversation's slightly tense from my side because I'm seeking to find the water. I'm trying to find the warmth of the water.
Right, right.
And then my friend is with me saying, "Hey, the warmth of the water's here. You can just relax."
Uh-huh. That's a great analogy. Do you uh are you always now swimming in that warm water, or do you sometimes get caught in separateness and then have to relax back?
For sure, yeah. Moments of overlooking this truth in special situations, spontaneously, and then just a natural relaxation of that effort to believe,
Hmm.
because it is an effort to believe that. And
Right. Yeah, I find that interesting because we always think it's an effort to relax into oneness, but in reality, that is our nature. It's actually an effort to be separate all the time. But it's an effort I'm committed to making, so
oh yeah.
I'm quite good at it.
Yeah. We can imagine in the beginning when we first decided, and this is to caricature our true nature, that we were so curious what it would be like to believe we are separate. And in that moment, we playfully thought, wow, this would be fun. Let's do it. And in fact, if we break down every moment that we believe that we are separate, that belief comes from our freedom. The only source of that belief is this infinite presence we are. And that infinity is freedom. And it is the freedom to create. Everything that gets created is created from this infinite presence. So it is the free will of our being which manifests the belief. So there is within that freedom this already present sense of happiness, like, wow, let's celebrate by believing that we are separate entities and then going on a journey to try to find ourselves.
Yeah. It's all a cosmic joke in the end.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be fun.
Mm.
It is fun. And your answer to Jonathan's previous question about whether you are sometimes, pop out of it, a lot of people ask me that, and it seemed to me that they have an idea that if during the day they somehow their mind becomes active in some practical thing that somehow or another they've popped out of awareness. And it doesn't seem to me to be the case. I mean, it seems like awareness doesn't go away even when the mind is active. And the idea that somehow 24/7 you must be in a state seems to me to be a little bit of a maybe a hindrance for people.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. We have all kinds of beliefs on this path. Like, I had a belief long ago that for me to be at peace, I needed to completely destroy my mind.
Right.
And
That's another one.
many people, yeah, come with this. When they meditate, they think, I need to stop the mind. And then when I stop the mind, I will somehow have a greater access to my true nature. Whereas that belief is just hindering the fact uh, of a journey. I mean, it's continuing a journey.
Hmm.
Whereas in fact, already right here, right now, our being is here. We don't need to change the content of the mind at all. All that may be necessary is a practice of inquiry is just to see what the substance of the mind is, to see that the very activity of the movement of the mind is made of awareness, is made of this substance of reality which doesn't have any limits. There are limits appear on the surface. There is movement that appears on the surface, but the very substance of the mind and the sensations and the perceptions is still and timeless. So then there's no desire to change the mind in any way.
Would it be accurate to use instead of the word awareness, to use the word energy? Like, thoughts are made of an energetic substance, perceptions are. Because I think if you see, people kind of have an understanding there's a quantum reality and everything is made of particles and energy. I'm wondering if that metaphor is useful or can help people to see that there's a oneness to everything.
Mm. For me, there was the use of this metaphor. I came across quantum physics and the unified field theory.
Hmm.
And this was one of the gateways in meditation for me because I was contemplating, wow, so everything is made of one unified field of energy. So I must be that. And if I look inwardly to myself, I must be able to access this field. I must be made of this field. And that was an incredible gateway to a glimpse.
Hmm.
And I feel now with modern science, we have this metaphor and it can aid us greatly in discovering this unified field. A note about the word of energy. In the way I use energy, it's usually associated with the concept of work. If
Hmm.
there's a movement, it is the energy. So, what does work is the reality that gives rise to the energy. So, there's one unmoving substance or presence that gives rise to the work or the movement, the
Hmm.
energy. So, like in Qigong, the Qi, I know in Taoism they refer to Qi somehow beyond movement and also movement. So they are non-dualistically together, that there is an unmoving substance that apparently moves as all the Qi.
Yeah, I'm glad that you brought up the Qigong. I have practiced Qigong for a number of years, somewhat sporadically. And it's interesting. One of the reasons I do it is because it helps me to feel that energy, we'll call it. But I also feel like, well, why should I need to do that? Because I'm already made of energy. Everything is. So I'm wondering if you can say why you do qigong, and rather than just in a certain way with the non-dual teachings, why do anything? Because if you're swimming in a jacuzzi, you don't have to search for the jacuzzi.
Yeah. Yeah. I see this entire creation as a celebration and a dance. So we can go onto the dance floor and listen to the music that's playing, and we can allow our body to move or not move, however it moves, how whatever happens, happens. And as we recognize ourselves as already complete, we don't mind how the movement arises fundamentally. Yet on the surface of our unique personal expression, there are desires which come from this celebration. And one of those desires might be to learn a particular style of dancing, which I feel Qigong, yoga, energy work, many different practices are a kind of urge to dance in a particular way. And the reason I love Qigong is because these movements feel like they have been tailored to channeling the energy that naturally arises from this source through the body to bring about this ever refined, ever deepening sense of communion between everything, that everything is loving on everything, and to move the body in such a way that there is love for the body, a gentleness, a caress of the body with itself and the space surrounding. And it's incredibly nourishing for
Yeah,
the
yeah.
body.
Hmm. Nice. Brian, what are your thoughts?
Well, that makes me think of when you were talking about that, one thing that seemed to occur to me and create a kind of a drop was that if there is only, I didn't think of the unified field theory at the time, but I've read a lot about that. But if all there is energy arising and falling, one energy arising and falling in various temporary forms, who could I possibly be other than all there is?
Yeah, this discovery in quantum physics that a particle before it manifests is in a state of pure possibility, that it exists beyond space and time.
Mhm.
And every particle in our body is made of that. It's arising from a source which is beyond space and time. So it's seamlessly connected beyond dimension to everything.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yes.
you said in your video, you always get what you desire because you are at source. You said prior to form, there is the desire for form, there is the movement to form. But you also say that cause and effect are a conceptual duality that are rendered within manifestation, that they don't exist prior to manifestation. And that to say that consciousness desires manifestation is only a statement that could be made within manifestation. Consciousness does not conceptualize desire prior to the arising of manifestation. Now, that may seem a little complex, uh, but it seems to me pretty clear. But I was wondering if maybe you could talk about that and make it even clearer.
Hmm. Yeah, it might sound quite intellectual or abstract. Uh, and it's just an invitation to see that the only way we can describe our essential reality is through form. Our essential reality doesn't describe itself. It doesn't know itself in any duality of cause and effect. So, being that our essential reality of awareness doesn't know itself in this duality of cause and effect, then when we experience that manifestation arises, we don't see that there is an effect and a cause. The effect being a separate object or an object that's connected to the source, but is somehow an extension. We see only that there is one substance. And from moment to moment, this substance is modulating itself, but that modulation is not dependent upon a previous state, because there is no previous state. The only state, which is not a state, it's more the substance of everything, is not temporal. It's not in time. So the timeless is apparently creating time, but it's only from the point of view of time that time seems to exist. It's only from the point of view of thought and perception that time seems to exist. From the perspective of our essential reality, we do not see time, yet there is the appearance of time. And the only way I can say there is the appearance of time is when I filter my timeless reality through thought and refer to time. Otherwise, there is just the timeless presence, knowing itself without thinking of itself essentially as I am causing this, just that I am this. This is my creation, is to say almost too much. It's just to say I am this. I am.
Yeah,
It's
that's
just a call to know nothing about what's going on.
that's great. And when that answer, which I think is really quite beautiful, but I experienced this also with Rupert at the beginning when I first started listening, that there was a trap that my mind would then start to work overtime trying to figure it out and analyze it and understand what he meant and then it would argue back and it would just go exactly where I didn't really want it to go. And then when I sort of dropped that idea and did two things. One, just listen as awareness without the effort to understand. And the other is to maybe employ not do I believe this is true, but what if this was the way? And sort of feel into it. Have you find that helpful for you and others?
Yes, just to, I say this repeatedly, rest as awareness and just allow all of this to come in. Once there is the intuition and the openness that what is being stated is truth, then we can just relax and allow the transmission of the word and the energy just to come in because it will do its work and it will leave us not knowing anything. All of these statements, like the line of reason that I just gave, is like a koan. It's a use of reason to debunk reason. It's a use of reason to dissolve reason. And what's left is just the pure silence of being, where everything is resolved without even thinking that everything is resolved, because there is just present being,
Oh,
where
how
there's no
wonderful.
belief in problems, there's no belief in suffering, there's no belief in anything. There's just raw, naked experiencing of being.
How wonderful. I'm so glad I asked.
Mhm.
Yeah, to me, it's like uh, even when you're talking about time and quantum physics, it's like devotional poetry in a certain way, in that it's pointing to our our oneness with awareness and all of reality. And there's different doorways, some intellectual, some uh, poetic, some devotional, some tantric, and our mission, should we decide to accept it, is to find the doorways that seem to work for us.
Mm. Yeah, yeah. And to enjoy the dance. Maybe we meet a partner on the dance floor and they love to dance a particular way and we play with them, dance in their style and blend together and finally recognize all of these styles of dance are expressions of the same love
Mm.
to dance and to be together.
Well, I love the way you talk, Samuel. It's been really amazing to hear how much wisdom pours through you at the age of 32, and I am excited about your future that way. I'm wondering if you could lead us in a guided meditation that represents some of what you do.
Oh, I'd love to. Yeah.
We're game.
Mm. So just allow yourself to be here and notice that everything that you perceive, the thoughts that arise, the sensations that move, and the perceptions that appear are here. They arise here. They exist here. And they subside into the here. The here is where the I awareness is. The there may be conceived by thought, but whatever is referred to is here. Only here is. And what knows that here is? Obviously, you know that here is. Are you here or are you there? Evidently, you are here, aware of being here. So simply be here and be aware of being here simultaneously. And see that any attempt to arrive here, to stabilize here, to focus on here, to make any effort to be here is unnecessary. You are already here itself. And in this here, just allow any effort to relax by itself.
Thank you for that. I got that even the effort to be here is an impediment to being here.
Unless it's a joke we're playing on ourselves, like a good punchline. Oh, I'm
Yeah.
already here.
And for someone like me, where there's often some kind of subtle effort in something, the idea of making no effort to be here was really sweet, and uh, I could then relax into whatever was happening.
Mm.
I found that
How
to
about
be
for
the
you,
case for me over the course of the interview. I had prepared several questions, and at one point, the note-taking app that my questions were in disappeared from the screen. And then later on, I realized, oh, maybe that's a little message. Maybe just relax, forget about your notes, see what questions come up. And then I found that to be somehow more consistent with the feeling that I have of a kind of a direct connection with you and your energy and all that you've been talking about.
Hmm.
Beautiful.
I have one last question. You live in England. Are things taken off in England? Are you considered a weirdo, or are you considered like
Oh, absolutely, yeah. A Jesus impersonator or very much a weirdo, yes.
uh But there are people who are into it there, and you work with people one on one on occasion.
Yes, I love the one-on-ones very much. It's
Uh-huh.
so intimate, so deep
Yeah.
to uh to meet in this, to meet in that openness. And yeah, it's miraculous. Just when we meet and there is just this openness to truth, then truth shines by itself. It's always a surprise.
Yeah. No, it can be a really intimate experience. I facilitate people sometimes in that, and I do MDMA work, which is also very intimate, and it's a real honor. It's like most people only know intimacy in a romantic relationship, but there's so many different types of intimacy in this oneness, and
Mm.
sounds like that's a wonderful experience. For people interested, how would they get hold of you? Do you have a website, or how do you people?
Yes, find me at samueljacob.org or on YouTube at being-happiness or find me through Samuel Jacob non-duality in a search.
Hmm. And for our Patreon supporters, we often send extra stuff. So if you're interested in supporting us, go to patreon.com/awareness explorers. Anything you want to add, Brian?
I only want to say I'm so grateful for A, that I just happened to discover you on YouTube. I think it's a wonderful thing. And B, for the generous sharing, for coming on our podcast. And I can't wait for our listeners to hear it.
Mm.
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 Yeah, I
Uh,
really enjoyed it, Samuel. You have
yeah.
you can tell that a lot of love and care is pouring through you,
Mm.
and
Yes, it's
I
so
appreciate that.
beautiful to meet like this together.
Hmm.
And I love that you have the two of you. There's such a gorgeous energy that's expressed through both of you. It's
We often use a two-wing analogy, and that you have to be in the world but not of it. That's two wings. But Brian and I represent two different wings, and it works well together.
yeah, it feels like I've been flying you both through the cosmos.
And to our listeners, keep flying, and as we always say, keep exploring.
Keep exploring.
Thank you for listening to Awareness Explorers. To learn more, you can check out our website at awarenessexplorers.com. Please subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast app. We'd love it if you would post a review. And please share our link on Facebook and with family and friends, because knowing yourself as awareness is the greatest gift you can give yourself or someone you love.